Welcome back to the Follow Brand Podcast. This is your host, Grant McGaw, and this is the show where we cut through the noise and get to the strategy behind what's next. And today we're diving into agentic AI, the shift from AI that answers to AI that can plan, decide, use tools, and take action. And once AI moves from assistant to actor, everything changes. Everything changes your operating model, your risk exposure, your governance, and your competitive advantage. So, how do leaders capture the upside, the speed, the smarter decisions, and real efficiency without inviting chaos? Also, compliance issues of automation that breaks the moment that really hits. And that's why I am joined by Dr. Jamila Amimer, CEO and founder of MindSenses Global, a consultancy helping organizations apply AI to improve performance and decision making across high stakes industries. And she's recognized as a top global thought leader in AI and known for bringing executive level clarity to complex systems. So, Dr. Jamila, welcome to the Follow the Brand Show.
Hi, Grant. Thanks for the invite. I'm very pleased to have this discussion with you and looking forward to talk about AI trends and in particular agentic AI.
This is where we want to get started because all of these things, and we just before we jumped on, we're talking about, man, think about how AI just kind of took over the stage of a lot of things that we're doing not only 2 or 3 years ago, and now we're hearing about this whole new application of AI, agentic AI, that can do some very, I would say, human-like functions. So I think is very, very important. So I want to hear from you, kind of where do you feel we're at right now, and how are you guiding executives, especially with the definitions around agentic AI, and what is the strategic significance of moving from assistant to actor?
That's a great question, Grant. So we will be talking about AI, and just for the audience so they know. So AI is not something recent. You know, we had AI in the 1940s, the 1950s, the 1960s, and up to today. Today, everyone know about generative AI, which is ChatGPT and Gemini and all the models. And now people are talking about agentic AI, but AI is a lot more. So there is a whole umbrella of AI techniques that are grouped together. So I want to talk first about the trends of AI in general, and then we deep dive into agentic AI. So in 2026, we will definitely move from experimentation to integration. The time of piloting AI and experimenting with AI and having some specific use cases, this is all over. Now we are talking about full scale integration if you want to have that competitive edge. So it's beyond just having a strategy, beyond just having an understanding, is really implementing AI on a production scale. This is if you want to create that value creation for your enterprise. So that's the first focus, integration. The second one, and I'll just talk a little bit about it because it's too technical and don't want to go into technical discussion for the audience. So one trend we will see going forward is the move from text-based language model. So the people who have heard of ChatGPT and generative AI, this is the kind of AI that is based on language or texts. So what the model does is predicting text. So you give it a question, it gives you an answer, but each time is predicting the next word in the sentence. So it's text-based. But most of the researchers have come to the conclusion that intelligence as a whole is not only based on language. And this is why you see some constraints and limitation of the current AI we have. So it's based on text and it's based on statistics. So I'll give you an example. So statistically, AI can find the correlation between malaria and fever. but it wouldn't understand that it is the malaria that is causing the fever. So the whole causal effect reasoning is missing from the current AI. So what researchers are talking about right now is to move from language-based type of AI to what they describe as a word or spatial type of AI. So AI can learn from videos, from images, from the a spatial dimension rather than just words. And we will see a lot of this. So, for example, the people who have heard, the chief AI officer of Meta, who has basically left Meta, or the former Facebook, to form his own company. There, he and his team will focus on this type of spatial or words type of AI. So we will see a lot of things going forward, at least from an R&D perspective in that space. We will also see a lot of initiative in terms of it's been described as physical convergence. So this is using AI with robotics, because robotics is something you can, you can feel, you can touch, compared to the software AI. So we will see a convergence or a combination between hardware, in terms of the robotics, and then the software of AI. So we will see a lot of implementation of
Can I stop
robotics.
you for one moment?
Yeah.
Because this is important, what you just said. And the three things you just touched on. That one was language, and that the world right now is being, enamored by the language text models, the large language model. But you're telling me that there is a new wave, not even talking about agentic, we're just talking about spatial AI in context, right? Really understanding what it's seeing, not just statistical and predictability of word language, where really humans are providing the imagery around that. And sometimes it's accurate, sometimes it's not. But you're saying to me is that these algorithms will be able to actually see. Maybe that's why some of our images are getting better that I've seen, like in Gemini, Nano Banana, and some other things that are getting better in this area. And now you just talked about, which I knew was going to be coming, is that you're going to have a physical element, let's say within your home, that is a robot, or in a manufacturing plant or whatnot, that's now utilizing the AI brain, so to speak, to operate. And you really do need that spatial component, because it needs to have some vision about what is happening around there. I just wanted you to stop you there, because that's very, very important to where we're going before we leap too far. As you stated, we got to get away from just modeling these things and strategically looking at them, to actually implementing these things. And here's the question I would ask you. People are like, oh, but we've already started down this road of implementing what you call our out of the box LLMs, and now you're telling me there's a whole new type of model that's coming out. Are we going to build on top of that, or we're going to have to scrap what we're doing and move forward with something different?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because what we have seen over the last several years is that in the AI field, things moves very quickly. So you frequently hear of new techniques, new models, and so on. So you have to be on top of the topic, and follow the trends, and kind of like be active rather than reactive in this space. For the spatial AI, I wouldn't worry right now about it, because they're just starting the R&D, the research of it. So it will take some time, for to get like some breakthrough, in that area. But it's coming. So the idea is kind of one is you have to be on top of things, but the other thing, and this is a very crucial thing, is that you shouldn't really be bothered about AI in itself. So, as a consultant or an advisor, when I talk to companies, they always say, I know I want to implement this model, or I want to use ChatGPT, or I want to use this and this tool. And then I always stop the discussion, say, let's park AI. Tell me about your problem. Let's understand your problem. And then part of the problem statement and problem understanding, let's find which type of techniques or AI, area can fit your problem. So you always start from the business context. Don't start with AI because you will just get lost.
I
So the
totally agree
idea
with
is that for leaders, they need to focus on kind of the rate of return. So you have the dilemma of incremental type of AI versus like moonshot kind of type of AI projects. And the focus, you have at least if you are a beginner, you have to start with the incremental AI. So you need to find, which technique, which model you can use that can, in a very short time, save you money, or, save you like, the speed, or, something tangible for your business. So you have to start with an incremental AI. Once you get to that stage, then you can then think strategically about like more kind of long-term vision. Should I build capacity? So then in a few times, in 3-4 years time, I have the talent to be able to deal with, for example, spatial AI or another type of AI. But right now, so if there are like, I'm exaggerating, but let's assume that like 100 ways you can apply AI for your business. Do you have like a methodology, or do you have a framework that, enable you to select and aggregate and screen and rank, the top 3 out of the 100?
Mhm.
So
Let me
that's
ask
kind
you
of
this.
as a
Let me
leader
ask
what
you
you
this.
need to focus on.
Because we're seeing a great advancement in the technology. And I like the adoption rate of artificial intelligence by your everyday user, right? Your everyday user, like a mobile user now. Now, I don't know, people are seeing it as a platform. AI is a platform that you can utilize very, very intelligently. But have we really trained the human workforce to work side by side, if you will, in an assistant type world? Like, how do I now incorporate AI into my workforce that is actually seen as an assistant? And then, we're not even talking about as an actor actually doing things, but just as an assistant right now for the human workforce. Have you found that that is either a bottleneck in the development of AI or the use of AI, or to get those business outcomes that people are looking for in AI? What's your take on that?
Yeah, that's a great observation, Grant, because this is one of the key areas or reasons for why AI projects fail. So they start with the pilot and they apply AI in an isolated way. And then, they have a great model, great accuracy, great outcomes. But then once then they integrate it within the business, this is when things starting falling out. And because they haven't thought about the things they need to be thinking at the early stage of the design. So for example, data governance, is missing. So there isn't a clear idea on the workflow. So from, what is the workflow? What is the right process design? From where do you get the data? Who is accountable for it? Even once you get the decision, the outcome from the AI model, who is accountable for that result? Who is going to sign, that decision? All that is missing. So you have a nice shiny tool, but then you don't, when you plug it, it goes all over, because all the necessary steps, the real kind of integration, embedding in the business steps have been missed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And all these you should really start from the beginning. There is another aspect that also teams tend to forget about. It is the training of the model. So obviously there is a lot of emphasis on training the model at the design stage. Everyone is exciting and they're experimenting with those the different techniques and trying to collect the data. Then they run the model, and then they tweak the accuracy, and they're happy with the result. But then let's assume then they go over the implementation, they succeed, but then they forget about it. They leave the model running for 2, 3, maybe in a couple of years without fine-tuning it, because most of the AI models, they have a tendency to drift. So even if you have a fantastic model that you have implemented and it's working fine on production, it doesn't mean it's the end of the story. You have always to keep an eye on your model. Is it drifting? You have to fine tune it. You may even have to, retrain, some parts of it. It's an active, you have to have an active monitoring. Otherwise things you will get like very nasty surprises. There is an example of, I forget the name of the startup, and maybe it's better not to mention it, but there was an AI startup in the real estate, area, and they use AI to try to predict, price houses. And then based on those prediction, they were in the business of selling and buying houses for householders. And because they haven't checked whether the model has drifted, by time, they ended up, losing millions of dollars, because kind of, the their algorithm, their model was suggested to buy houses at a cheaper price than the actual market price. And this is because once they produce and implemented the model, they haven't monitored for changes in market prices. So they haven't fine-tuned the thing. And if you don't do that, if you don't monitor the drifting of your model performance, you may end up with big consequences in the future. So this is also one of the thing. So there are like a lot of, kind of challenges that the business needs to take into account. You mentioned agenting AI, so that's also going to be one of the themes for 2026. So the theme for agenting AI will be, there are like two things. One is around orchestration. So moving from an individual type of, you are dealing only with one agent, to dealing with a whole set of agents, maybe tens of agents, hundreds of agents. I'm exaggerating, but you could be dealing with thousands of agents if you are a very, very big
Big or
corporate.
enterprise
So
wise, yeah.
yeah, so that's kind of one of the theme. So that is
Before you got there, before you
mm,
go to agentic, which is another, it's a big pool. You brought up drift. And I want the audience to really lean in on what you're talking about, because I think this is one of the things we need to get around this. And I've talked to some others around it, because a lot of times we're used to things being what I call deterministics, meaning
mm,
1 + 1 = 2. Well, in a probabilistic world, which is where AI sits, 1 + 1 doesn't always equal 2. Sometimes it equals 3. Just like me, I'm 1, you're 1, but we're in a group that equals 3. Meaning we don't know exactly what Grant is going to say or how you're going to answer. We can make assumptions around that, but it's not a clear uh, mathematical equation. Let's put it like that. So when you have drift, and I've seen this happen before, this is why you get different answers to the same question no matter what model you're using, whether it's chat or it's Claude or Perplexity or other ones. You're like, wow, it's slightly going to be always different. So, but in certain models in production, let's say you're making a widget, and that there's a process that has to be followed step by step, like a recipe. You can't have drift in that, because it has to be exact in what it's producing to get the desired result. Just like when you go into a McDonald's, for the most part, you get the same experience, whether you're in America, you're in France, you're in Europe, or you're somewhere else. It's pretty much going to be the same type of experience, very little variation. This is important to understand in the current model, as you now start to talk about agentic AI and start to understand that, can you afford drift in the use case that you're using it for or not? And then you start getting into what you alluded to earlier on spatial AI that might correct some of that. I'm not sure. What would you think about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, going back to the family of AI, so people need to realize that not all of the AI techniques are equals. They don't have equal opportunities, and they don't have, equal risks. So, generative AI and agentic AI, which is a subset of generative AI, is the riskiest of it, because then you have another family of what we call predictive AI based on machine learning and other techniques. For example, just to give an example, what do we mean by predictive AI versus generative AI? So generative AI, you are using AI to generate, a paragraph, an essay, a picture, a video. You are generating an input. Predictive AI, you're not generating any, this type of things. You are using it to try to predict something. So an example will be, and this is mostly the earlier version of machine learning. So that's, the earliest version of AI, before 2022, or before, ChatGPT became famous. So that predictive type of AI will be used. So if you are a factory, maybe a car manufacturer, and you would like to predict when your factory may break down, you will use AI to try to predict when a certain type of machinery may break down. So then you try to have a maintenance scheduled, done, to avoid that breakdown. That's very different from when we talk about generative AI, because generative AI, you're not trying to predict a cost, or try to predict a risk, or try to predict an event happening. You are generating things. You're generating a blog, you're generating video, and so on. So agenting AI is a combination. You have two things. You have agency. So you have autonomous, kind of digital agent that acts, but they're mainly, or most of them, they're using a generative AI. So they're using like an agent to generate something. Again, you are still in the generative aspect.
Yeah.
So you're using AI to generate a report for you, or to generate, I don't know, a purchase, or something like that. So we have the drift, but like something that is also very relevant when we talk about generative and agentic AI, because it's based on generative AI, is what we call hallucinations.
Mm-hmm.
So you get kind of like this mix, and because it's based on tokens and trying to predict what is the next word. This is why you never get the same answer, even when you ask the same question. And this is very problematic for big businesses. So if you are using one agent, you may get to one problem. If you are using thousands of
You
agents,
got thousands of problems.
you get what you call, people in banking and financial services, they always talk to you about compound, the
Compound
compound
it.
effects of
Yeah.
interest rates. You get the same thing for
Compound problem.
agentic AI. If you are using thousands of agents and each agent can make a mistake, imagine, you have one mistake multiplied by a second mistake, multiplied by the third mistake, and it goes until the thousand of mistakes. Imagine what kind of consequences
Oh,
you may
that's
have.
cluster. Yes.
So, so what you have to be very careful. So obviously, they're like things. So there is a merit into it, but we want to be realistic. So on one hand, obviously, there are like values to get from agentic AI, but you have to be very careful when you apply it. First of all, you have to apply it for an area where you are an expert. So for example, let's assume I'm an expert in financial services. So if I'm using agenting AI in finance or banking, you may assume that if the AI agent give me a wrong answer, I have the background or the capabilities or the knowledge to know that the answer is incorrect. But if I'm in financial services, but then use agentic AI, maybe let's say for healthcare or something completely different that, I have no knowledge of, then I cannot judge whether the outcome I'm getting is wrong or right. So you have to use it in where you have a domain expertise. You also have to have humans in the loop to kind of do the testing and judge the quality of those results. I see that currently, because of the media, there is some hype, a lot of hype around, especially agentic AI. But I think over time, maybe not now, in 5-6 years time, we may start seeing something really valuable in that area rather than just kind of experimenting and hyping, in this space.
This is important to understand, and you bring up a great point of when to separate the hype from what is real, what you can put into your business, and realistically have the outcome that you're looking for. You hear about it in customer service, maybe doing some triaging, some very simplified appointment scheduling. And integration with your CRM. I think these things are very possible from an automation standpoint. But when we start talking about governance as a strategy asset, my question to you would be in that area that we just talked about. What are the non-negotiable principles of a trustworthy agentic AI program when we're talking about accountability that you talked about, controls, auditability, and approvals? What is your take on that?
Yeah, so the governance issue is applicable for the whole of AI. So obviously, we really need to know. So even if you take the, I know it's not really agentic, but there are like similarities into it. So if we talk about autonomous vehicles or driverless car, so we need to have a clarity, not only accountability of the company, but we also need legal frameworks. So there is a whole regulation. Some countries have advanced regulation. Some countries are trying to get in there, but it's fuzzy and, it's not clear what is meant by the regulation. But let's take the example of a driverless car, and let's assume that car is running on AI, on agenting AI. So, let's assume, God forbid, there is an accident and someone dies or someone gets injured. Who will be accountable for that incident? So is it the company who produced the AI software? Is it the manufacturer who manufactured that hardware, the car itself? Is it the company who trained the model, on the different traffic lights and the roads and the signal is, there isn't a clarity, if you look at the whole process, there isn't a clarity on who is accountable. So you say, I'm accountable for this segment and you are accountable for that segment and, and the rest, especially if you have like, a long, kind of like end-to-end, chain. So the whole accountability, it's not always clear. Obviously, this is an extreme example, but you may have like smaller examples, within your enterprise or within your businesses. So you have to think about how do you deal with, governance and accountability. Who has the final say? I think it's always good to kind of have a combination of AI and humans, have humans in the, so you can, you can have AI run the model and maybe suggest to you, or I use the word advise you on the outcome. But in the end of the day, is the human who should be making that final decision. if you want to be on the safe area. Another one is if you really want to be safe, especially if you are experimenting with the newest type of methods of AI. So we're not talking about the traditional type of AI, but the most recent, like agentic AI and so on. So try not to experiment with AI in a very exposed area. So let's not have this type of model dealing directly with your customer. There have been examples where, a chatbot has been left loose with customers, and that chatbot starting criticizing the company and suggesting them to go to the competitors because the company was so, lazy and, not competitive and poor, poor performance and so on. But sometimes the consequences could be even greater than that. So we know, for example, this is going a step backwards. So we're not talking about agentic AI, but we're talking about generative AI as a whole. So the like of language model, the like of ChatGPT. So we know that there are like current lawsuits, against, for example, those companies like OpenAI and, the similar companies where people may have, unfortunately and sadly, lost their lives and committed suicide because, the environment was not safeguarded for this type of applications. Sometimes you may get some suggestions that of the mark, that if you are like in a vulnerable position, and if you have like some mental issues, or you could end up in very kind of sinister type. So going forward, also one of the themes I see, the societal clash
Yes. Yes.
will continue,
Culture.
because in
Culture
one
is a
hand
big
we have
element.
tech companies pushing for AI, and sometimes maybe pushing AI too soon, without enough and proper and rigorous kind of mechanism and testing around it. And we have the society who could be impacted. So that is also a trend to be aware of. So it's about a trade-off. You have to deal with it. Don't go blindside. Sided. You have to be aware of the consequences and the risk attached to AI. Another one is
Well, before you continue, I just wanted to jump in on that because you're right on some of the pulse of what we're seeing, especially if we look at what happened even in social media, with applications like Facebook, Instagram, others, LinkedIn, things of that nature, and how it works. Obviously, the platform itself is fine, but the impact on society as a whole, and you're starting to see, like, what is the culture of our human world like, and how would they utilize these tools, that you may or may not have foreseen that they would utilize it this way, but they are, and some of that is unpredictable. I think human behavior could be some of the most unpredictable things that are out there. How do you safeguard that? How do you put disclaimers potentially there? Just like they used to have it on a pack of cigarettes. You're like, hey, just so you know, you smoke these things, you could get cancer. I don't know what that would look like from an AI perspective or some of the platforms as they come out, because it's so new. We have our laws are just behind, and the
yeah.
tech is moving so rapidly, it just can't keep up with all the things that are happening. But I am starting to see some things come out of this, meaning you can't, like in an agentic AI model, instead of going out to the internet, so to speak, for all its answers, it can use a controlled database, knowledge base within your company, let's say, which is like an old word we used to say called intranet. Like, hey, we have a controlled environment, and you give safeguards around your AI model saying, hey, you only get answers from this pool. Now, I don't know if it'll reinterpret or things like that. I'm not sure how that will work, but we have to get a control of our robots, our bots, and things like that. Here's my question,
Yeah.
because we have to wrap up. But here's the question I want to make sure that I ask you this, 'cause I think it's important. If you could give one boardroom ready, like, operating principle for the agentic era, something that leaders can apply right now, like immediately, in your opinion, what would that be, and why?
That's a great question. So I think yeah, let's assume we tackle all the issues and, we can mitigate the risk, linked to agenting AI. But one big component as a leader. So if you want to, have like, AI agents in your business, doing some of the stuff, kind of admin, procedures and so on, businesses in your enterprise. So one area that like businesses have somehow neglected is HR data, because HR data, you only, deal with it, I don't know, if you are dealing with paying salaries for people, or, or pension, or, redundancies, and so on. But now HR data is going to be very, very crucial for agenting AI, because if you are going to implement agents, to do the work that is being done by some of your staff, you need to know kind of the workflow of the jobs that are being done by your people. So you say, for example, person A or John do this, and once they done it, they pass it to Susan, and Susan done this. So all this type of data, you could find it in the HR departments, which tends to be neglected, because you never think of it like that way. You usually think about the money, or, the salaries when you think about HR data. So you need kind of like this type of data to make it work, in the enterprise. If you want, have to have AI agents, kind of to do some of the work. Another aspect, so let's assume it's successful and you mapped the tasks, and then you have successful, AI agents, and you're monitoring them, and you're keeping an eye on their performance and so on. There is the human element that comes into it. So if as a person or as a staff, I used to do a certain job, but then I see that maybe, let's say, 50% or 25% of my job is being done by an AI agent, that could create a loss of meaningful, because then I may feel less meaningful, for the job and for the company. So as a leader, you need to find ways to keep your staff motivated, overall, because usually people invest their effort and time if they feel their work is being meaningful for the company, if their work is being appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to think about that psychology and the human kind of like AI agent relationship in terms of the performance of the humans.
Sure. That's a great point, what you just brought up. Didn't even think about that, but you're right. Like, how do you fill that vacuum that's there, and that sense of meaning? You human beings
Yeah.
have to have a sense of meaning and purpose and things of that nature, and we don't want to just take that away without understanding. We take something away, we got to give something back, and what is that going to be on the other side of the ball? I think this is important knowledge that we need to consider as we look at what can be automated, what can an agent actually do. But at the end of the day, what is the outcome? As you said a little earlier, what is the net of doing this, and what does that look like? Not only financially, technically, but and then operationally, but the human component is so important. I always say, well, you're gonna cut off your nose in spite of your face, kind of thing. Like, bots don't buy from bots, and it's kind of like, all right, you can't escape the value in that. I think that's very, very
Yeah.
important. I want
And
to.
if I may add, one point is you really have to think about the upskilling upskilling of your staff. So you
Yeah,
cannot just let
right.
them, like that. And then in that, so I don't know about the statistics of the US because obviously I'm based in the UK. So even in terms of the impact on the workforce, there is a disparity between female and male. So there was a study about the UK, but in the financial services. And what they found in the financial services, they looked at repetitive, mundane type of work. We
Yeah,
have to keep repeating and repeating, the same stuff, boring, stuff, the kind of stuff that could be done by agentic AI.
sure.
And what they
Right.
found that most of those roles are being done by women because
Uh-huh.
most of the roles they used to be maybe part-time roles, kind of like, flexible roles. So even in terms of the impact, there will be a disparity in terms of how women and men will be impacted. And maybe also some ethnicity into it. So you also have to take that into account.
Yeah,
It's not
100%.
equitable opportunities and it's not equitable impacts.
We have to look at the whole thing because there are definitely a lot of impacts around that as you change roles, job roles, responsibilities, and titles, and the
Mhm.
upskilling part of that. I truly believe that we it will cause us to have to come upscale. We've got to be more critical thinkers, analytical thinkers, things of that nature, in order to bring value to the business and lifestyle that you have, and that goes all the way from K through 12 all the way up. Because this type of, I think, technological shift is it's a paradigm shift that's affecting everything from the very beginnings of learning all the way throughout the life cycle of retirement for certain people because of how work is getting done. How is it being done? And you can probably do it quicker, better, faster, but then what is the impact of all of that? So we got to really think through that. I want to thank you for sharing your thoughts and your insights. And I know the audience is like, I want to talk to her more. How can they get in touch with you? So they first of all tell us a little bit more about the business that you have and how we get in touch with you so we can take advantage of that.
So first of all, Grant, thanks for the invite. I really enjoyed the discussion, and I'm happy to come back again if you want me to address maybe some other topics. So I currently lead MindSenses Global, which is a boutique AI management consultancy. And what I do and my team is basically helping businesses apply AI. So whether it's just developing an AI strategy or developing AI tools for them, but also advising on AI startups and which companies to invest in. So I am on LinkedIn. Very happy. If some of your audience want to connect with me, they can find me in the LinkedIn and the name of Dr. Jamila Amimer. And if they want to look at my company, is also on LinkedIn. And my website is www.mindsenses.co.uk.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. I want to thank you and everybody over in the UK. You're doing excellent work. This is exactly what we want to hear about. And the fact that you are leading this charge and you are the CEO of this organization and you're bringing the top of mind information out, I really, really appreciate you being on the show, and that your entire audience can see all the episodes of Follow the Brand. They can do so at 5-star medium. That is the number five. That is star, STAR. That's B for brand, D for development, M for masters.com. And I want to thank you again for being on the show, and we will definitely have you back.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.